Okay, the sky has cleared up a bit, brightened up. Got the AC working. Welcome. Hopefully, this is kind of a mix between talk and the radio right now, and not and it's kind of got me curious. I think that the topic or whatever has changed, but don't worry. I'm talking about the radio because someone tuned in almost instantly, and I do want you to know that I'm here to talk what this is. Um, our dogs sometimes, I don't know, maybe I'll just give them a small one. I really don't intend for this to be very long. Our dog sometimes gets hyper when I'm doing videos, and he's standing here looking at me like, okay, so this means that I get a treat. I get a rawhide, and it's true. He's kind of trained us. We actually almost, but now I'm a mix of like kind of chilly actually. Um, sorry. Um, Kind of chilly now that I got the AC on. I'm fluctuating a bit, and it is like the sensor on the AC was messed up too. Luckily, there's a button on the adapter, so I didn't have to pull it, which is it's actually in there tight, and other things are in there out, and it's a tight corner. And anyway, I got it fixed. That's the main thing. Although I'm a little bit worried now, is it completely fixed, or is the issue that it was giving us, with a voltage issue or a temperature sensor thing. Um, Come on, grab it. So yeah, basically, we tried a new harness with them because the other one we thought it was falling apart. Then we noticed it wasn't, but then we thought no, another at the top part is, and it's amazing how like just the outer layer of or the outer plastic of the slider thing actually holds it down. So we used a different one, and I wasn't out in the walk, and this is another. It actually almost does tie in. Apparently, he got out of the harness and was running around a little bit, and luckily, then had a treat in his pocket, and was able to coax him back. And I think they were fairly close to home, where he just tried carrying him. I hope he didn't try and put the harness back on him inside. I can't remember. I was upstairs, and I'm thinking of this morning. I think taking the harness off or being kind of half on, but I don't know. I think he half took it off. I don't know. Anywho, so yeah, and that's the thing. Animals are sometimes loose, and they are not necessarily smart about traffic. Our dog is very, very smart, and this isn't just about dogs or whatever, but our dog is very, very smart. However, we have this sliding gate thing that is on the end, at the base of our inside steps, and now he's like not focusing on his thing in the view left, and if it's slid across, he doesn't know. Just come down the steps. I'm going to be opening it for both of us, and it's good. And it doesn't matter if I say it because he doesn't understand that type of human language, as smart as he is. And also sometimes he can be with him, but I can tell he's going to lay on the couch tomorrow. But he's also lovely. And I can't believe I never saw that puppy posted for shows. I hope I come across it again. I'm still trying to find videos. I mean, Evan doesn't seem that curious, but I also slightly want to do it for myself. I mean, part of me wonders if things I'm focusing too much on it, but it's kind of that phrase and theme of yesterday, do me. And if that's what I got to do, then that's what I got to do. Just like I think I am going to put some socks on. But yeah, so and last night it was kind of scary because it was coming, or kind of annoying. I was coming. He was playing piano, and I think he just thought, he didn't realize. I don't want to use the word urgency, but he didn't realize that it was kind of urgent. I was coming down with the laptop, and he didn't drive around the cord. He was just being careful on the way up. And the dog was not coming down, and luckily he's so good because I kept trying to scoot him, and it kind of was working, kind of not. He wasn't getting aggressive or anything. And I knew that between trying to get the dog down and hold the laptop, I wasn't going to be able to move the thing. There's only been a couple of times recently, I guess because of the laptop being down here, and I really have to be careful because I was almost a little close. But that that I've had to with him because it's sinful. But yeah, so anyway, sorry for that diversion. Um, but something interesting did transpire where I was briefly upstairs, kind of looking up the mushroom. And I don't know whether this is the point that I should bring it in to the conversation, or what. But part of me, I want to remember it. I mean, it's just like the first spiritual visit I had with my dad. Not likely going to forget it. I wrote it down, and actually, that it was a long time ago, and I actually probably have misplaced it. Every now and then, it's actually been being getting reminded of it. But for a long time, I kind of feel like I wasn't. Like it was somewhere in the back there. But my dad had passed away um, in an automobile accident. He was 49. I was just about to turn. I had always thought 12, but it may have actually been 15. and and I don't know if I'm gonna get this, and I don't know why it's only two Wi-Fi lines, but I don't know if I'm gonna get this exact what he said to my telepathy upstairs a few moments ago, but something to the effect of, um, he says, "You'll remember that," and actually, it's interesting. This is very, very interesting. I actually was kind of remembering and going to articulate it, but I feel like my dad kind of wasn't sure if I was remembering and was going to articulate it again. And he says, I'm almost hesitant to repeat this part. But then is also kind of saying that when he mentioned it the first time, just a few minutes before I started this, he says that and I know that this is personal to me, but I think there's a real message in it. And then I want to say a few more things, perhaps. Uh, but he says that he almost doesn't want to repeat it because he is a little bit, even though he's at peace, he's ashamed and embarrassed. He says after work the one day, and he was a smart guy. I mean, he didn't have a that twisted sense of humor, but I saw something the other day, and actually not that long ago, thought of his one joke, which is actually honestly the only joke I remember him ever having. I know that some of this is very specific and personal, but it's also a general message. And so welcome. Because I didn't actually see a lot of my dad when I was growing up, and then he did pass away when I was young. And he's told me with my telepathy that he did stop in the view, like moment before telepathy, I think, or just as. But anyway, he did stop and have a beer. It may have even been at Denver, because that was pretty close by. That was the job that, like, I think that was the job that he did kind of late in nights, and then he, I think, went to the paper delivery, and then he came home for a bit, got a bit of sleep, or got me to school, and then got a bit of sleep, and then, but not enough apparently. Well, and then had his other jobs, and any time that I wasn't in school for whatever reason, sometimes I'd go with him. I mean, when I don't remember, like, once. Well, I mean, again, he passed away when I was young. I don't remember really staying at home by myself. I mean, I had CYWs growing up. Yeah, I mean, we didn't really have a lot of other people that watched me. I don't. Yeah, even when we were close with neighbors. I mean, when I was a kid, I played with my fellow kids, but I don't remember, my parents not being home, and that's what I did. Maybe occasionally. Anywho, point of the matter is that it's true. It's something I always wondered, and if I had a choice, I maybe wouldn't tell myself this. And I'm not telling myself this. He's telling me. He said I stopped for a beer. He said, and between that and the fact that I overworked myself and I had some things stressing me out, my body just slowed down, drifted off, went into that ditch. You know the rest. Even though, and he says, I'm so sorry. He says, even though you didn't witness the accident, and he says, I'm also very thankful that I've noticed that it doesn't replay in your mind very often, but he says, I know you can see it. I was listening to something just the other day, old footage, where I was kind of talking a little bit about it and how it was a welding truck that likely caught fire. Um, But it was all these elements. Somebody was briefly there. It was all these elements, like very briefly, that attributed to his passing. And he says, and I feel terrible because I can't take that back. I can't undo that. But he is saying so thankful that and he says, yeah, he at times was simply just watching and observing. I was doing okay, and he says, even when I wasn't doing okay, I was still doing pretty decent until things really piled up, and he um, had to try a bit harder. And I'll share it because it was the start of all this. And again, there was some other. It's happened like 3 times in this short amount of time for like a few seconds. I know that this is personal, but I have personally lost someone who, when I actually think about it, and earlier he said, you may think that Jenny might be with me, but she wasn't distracted driving. Um, and he says she's never actually even mentioned to him whether the truck driver was, but um, that it was a big truck. He just he says, "Do you really need to? Do we really need to search for the details in that?" He says, "But he feels that I deserve to know the truth about his passing. I mean," he says, "he knows that I knew some. I'm just gonna put my slippers on here because I'm still got cold feet, even with socks on. That AC is pretty strong." He says that he knew that I knew some, such as that he fell asleep at the wheel, such as that, but we all need sleep, and actually, it doesn't usually trigger me to sleep. So that's, but fell asleep at the wheel, and that alone is believable enough, really, to know that it happened, and 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 he says, no, but you know what? You're doing this message, and I'm helping you do it because it wasn't the whole story. It wasn't. I didn't drink a lot, he says, but every now and then I would have one. And it was a combination of not being well enough rested and slept, and having had, and he says, I am very thankful that I simply drove into a ditch, and to my knowledge, and what he seems to be saying, is nobody else got hurt. He says there may have been a couple people that observed it and got a little traumatized, um, but and there may have been, sounds like there may have been a little bit of damage to a property because of the blaze, I guess. But aside from his truck, but he says, thankfully, nobody was hurt. But this is the thing. Um, this is the thing. It's kind of like, and sure, I can say, oh, but I believe my ability. I truly do, for so many reasons. And yesterday was very powerful example. Um, and I, of course, posted it. I could easily think, oh no, it was just that. I'd hate to think it was any other factor. But you know what? I don't judge him. I don't judge him if he decided to have a beer. I mean, so many people have one and then get behind the wheel, and some people can manage that. Other people, it will make their blurry, little lightheaded or blurry vision, and that's distracted driving. It's not just phones. You know, sure, sometimes you'll need to follow a map. Either use GPS or do it when you're at a light, or pull over into a parking lot or the side of the road. I mean, I'm not going to call the radio, even though we could, distraction. I'm not going to call, I almost wouldn't call talking on the phone. It's when your eyes are off the road. Or in my dad's case, and this was before cell phones were big. When your eyes are off the road. I mean, we all know this, but I think we should be reminded sometimes. And because I've often thought, if you're just talking on the phone, how is that all that different? Maybe it depends on the content and how worked up you are about it, but how is it all that different to either talking to yourself or talking to somebody else in the car or talking to the radio for that matter? I mean, for those that may do that. I mean, I really don't think it is. It's when the eyes are not in the road or there's some other sort of impairment. That's when it's dangerous. Um, I was YouTube showed me a few things and then crashed not long afterwards. But I did open this, and did I make no? Yeah, I love that Josh Groban song. But I don't think I'm going to say it. And same to me, Mark Hanley and the Mark connection, which reminds me actually. Um, 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 yeah, basically, uh, um, Arizona. I was thinking Arkansas. Pine Top. It's got two different names. That's kind of weird. Sorry, just putting. I'm hearing a couple things on the radio that have me curious, but I'm wanting to do what would be acceptable light background noise to YouTube because I want the background noise. Um, um, November, December, January, February, March. Yep, that would be about right. Okay. Um, Anywho, using icon actually. Uh, so I'm just talking about distraction, but I'm not driving, so who wrote it? Did you spell right for wrong? Sorry. But yeah, so basically, um, people are dying in enough other reasons. A lot of them actually preventable, but you know, uh, and I'm thinking of a couple specific. There are a lot of things you can do. You can, and I understand why one would or wouldn't, but you can try as much with your health to be healthy and to do whatever medical things you need. But sometimes this body is still going to do things that you eventually die from. I mean, life is hard, but at the same time, it's precious, and we don't need to be risking our own or anybody else's by things that can wait. And I'm like, again, I'm talking like cell phone distractions. Um, and that's the thing. That's what sparked this today. Actually, is like I say, YouTube showed me news from my hometown, and it's been a while since it has, so it was kind of weird. And in the morning, of course, and he hasn't been at work long, and I, I kind of watched a little bit of it actually while I was possibly like 5 or 10 minutes away from work, although he tries to be early. But and the announcer, and I'm disappointed that they would not edit this to make themselves look better, or that they would even let this guy talk. And do the news story, because he said the habits that cause distracted driving can be hard to break, and I mostly strongly disagree. To quote what they would ask, how they ask in surveys. I It's not really. I understand. I get it. Speaking of, though, where is my cell phone? Right there. It's very easy to be attached to this thing. Even if, like in my example right now, I don't have it on a network, I can still do some things on it though. And it's interesting the deity part and the DD part because I had to retitle it the one time. But how easy it is to, some people will say, and it's not untrue, and I don't think it's always terrible, but it can be in these kind of situations. It's like we're at the beck and call. Sorry, I need a new case, but it's an old phone. We're at the beck and call of this thing, and I didn't mean to turn the screen on, but and yeah, it's you know, and I mean, it's partly true. Sometimes it only takes a few seconds of looking down, but very rarely. Distracted driving that involves cell phone is probably somebody that's been looking down at their phone for at least a few minutes. And also, I feel mixed about people that drive with one hand. I know that because super often, but um, part of me thinks part of me thinks it looks kind of neat and it's doable and sure whatever. The other part of me thinks it's not balanced. You're gonna lean a little bit more to, or you're gonna. I don't know. It's not. It's not. You can put your hands in different positions, although driver instructors would say what two or whatever it is. I would say, but as long as they're both on the wheel, I'd be too nervous to drive, and I can't afford a car as much as it would be lovely, but um, and helpful. I'm picking up. It's like name that tune. I'm picking up some good sounding stuff. This sounds like it might actually be between two stations, so maybe I'll wrap this up because I do have at least one call tomorrow, and if the other person is not available Friday, then I might have two. And I don't know if there's anything else to say. Sorry, that's a bit loud, but it's not super close to reach. Certainly, the volume control isn't. Uh, you know, I don't know if there's anything else to say other than what's already been said, and just to be careful. And if you're ambivalent about your own life, I can understand feeling that way sometimes. But don't make that decision about somebody else's. Don't put somebody else's life at risk. Um, as far as the drinking thing, I'd like to say that everybody knows how alcohol affects them. And actually, the guy that got the raffle thing at the thing last night, apparently we did win something because we left beforehand, and he was drinking. And he was actually drinking quite a bit, so hopefully he wasn't driving. Um, I don't know if we get the prize otherwise. And he seemed like an interesting guy, a little bit quirky, but yeah, funny and talkative, and that. But yeah, and so I'm putting this message out there, even though I don't know most most of the people that will see it. Uh, you know, I think it's important. I'm sorry if I should have said some other things that may have been helpful on the topic, but I haven't been up that long. I do and don't feel rested from yesterday. We can keep this one short and sweet. It's really not like that newscaster said. These are hard habits to break. Mostly they're not. When you think about why it's important not to drive distracted, and especially in certain distractions and that, it should be like make yourself make yourself drive safe. Like it's not that hard. Thanks for listening. Bye.